A very warm welcome. You're watching News Global with me, Akanksha Swaroop on CNN News 18. Let's begin with our top focus on the war in Ukraine. The war-torn Ukraine has received the US-made Patriot surface-to-air guided missile systems that it was long craving for, and that is the big story today. The Patriot, let me tell you, can target aircraft, cruise missiles and shorter-range ballistic missiles as well. Russia has used that weaponry to bombard Ukraine, including residential areas and civilian infrastructure so far, especially the power supply over the winter in Ukraine. Now, Kyiv hopes it will help shield it from Russian airstrikes during the war, as it is a major boost and a milestone in this war against Moscow's full-scale invasion. It's the latest contribution from Kyiv's Western allies, who have also pledged tanks, artillery and some types of fighter jets, as Ukraine is now gearing up for an expected counteroffensive. The Patriot was first deployed by the United States in 1980s. The system costs approximately $4 million per round, and the launchers cost about $10 million each. At such a cost, it's not advantageous to use the Patriot to shoot down the far smaller and cheaper Iranian drones that Russia has been buying and using in Ukraine. Interestingly, well, that's what analysts have to say. But Germany's federal government website on Tuesday also listed this Patriot system as among the military items that has been delivered within the past week to Ukraine. In fact, the German foreign minister too has confirmed that to lawmakers in Berlin on Wednesday. If you look at it, it's just a missile system, but means a lot in this war and could just prove to be the game changer. What it will mean for this war as far as Russia and not just Ukraine but the Western allies are concerned, let me quickly get in a perspective. And for that, I'm joined in by my guest, Peter Zalmayev, who's a political analyst and joining me live from Kyiv at the moment. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining in. Now, will the arrival of the Patriot mark a new phase in the war, with Kyiv gearing up for a counteroffensive?
Well, I think that the turning page was actually when the political will was demonstrated that the Western countries would send these Patriot systems to Ukraine, and that was a few months ago. By themselves, we understand there's only two, maybe three systems that have been delivered. It's not clear because three countries now are taking credit for it: the US, Germany, and the Netherlands. But it is now being said that Germany and the Netherlands are splitting one between themselves. So we're not clear as to how many have arrived at this point. You mentioned in the lead up to this interview that in fact it's the Patriot missiles are so costly, it's prohibitively so, to use them against cheap Iranian-made drones or Soviet-made S-300 missiles, etc. I think this is more of a vote of confidence. I think the symbolic value is important, that Western countries are trusting Ukraine with such incredibly important technology,
Right.
first of all. And it's also kind of a vote for Ukraine's future. And I think an important element in Ukraine's eventual air defense once the war is over. For the immediate purpose of this counteroffensive, once again, we have not yet, taken care of Ukraine's pressing need for more air defense missiles and other sort of weaponry, which Ukraine has been requesting from Western allies.
It's interesting that you mentioned the cost of it, because one round costs, this is a system that costs approximately $4 million per round, and the launchers cost an additional $10 million each. What are going to be the challenges of handling such a sophisticated missile system?
Well, the challenges, for the initial stage has been dealt with pretty well. And when I say pretty well, I don't think we have a precedent for such quick mastering of these systems before. And the American trainers have said that Ukrainians have been an absolute quick study. I'm literally quoting them here. The training began in Fort Sill, Oklahoma in January. It was expected to take up to a year, and we're already here. It's been only 4 months, and it's already pretty much up and running. So Ukrainians, once again, demonstration of when you're fighting for your own country, you concentrate and mobilize all your faculties, and therefore you're delivering results much quicker than the opposing side.
Right.
So I am very optimistic that Ukrainians will put them to as good a use as possible.
Absolutely. Peter, will the arrival of new weaponry such as the Patriot help Ukraine in breaking this deadlock, especially in the east, particularly Bakhmut, and reclaim occupied territories?
Well, I hope it will. Once again, it will add to the larger effort. It will not be decisive by themselves because let's not forget it's only two, maybe three systems we're talking about at this point. What will make a big difference is more offensive weaponry because once again we're talking about a counteroffensive. We need more tanks. We are still pressing for fighter jets. We haven't closed that chapter yet, and that's why the Patriot has been so important because it opened doors to other sorts of weaponry. Before, when the question of Patriot came up, it was the Westerners who said it's impossible, out of the question. While Patriot opened doors, so Patriot became possible. After that, now we're talking about the tanks became possible, and right now we're talking about fighter jets, F-16s. Not at this point probable, not for this current counteroffensive, but I think eventually the allies understand that Ukraine needs to have a much stronger presence in the air.
Absolutely. And when you talk about that much stronger presence in the air, how significant or rather crucial is it to define that preparation of a counteroffensive that Ukraine's been gearing up for? And remember, time is of essence.
Time is of the essence, but once again, you don't rush into it, ill prepared because you can cause with your unsuccessful counteroffensive, you can cause a return counteroffensive from the enemy. They've had time to entrench their positions in the south, in Kherson and Zaporizhia, and for the last 8 years in Donbass. So you really have to go at it very, very carefully, especially after the Pentagon leaks. We understand that the Ukrainian forces have had to postpone the counteroffensive, which was we understand originally scheduled for around April 30th. Well, we're probably going to miss that deadline. So the idea, obviously, is to keep the enemy guessing as to the date and the direction of the counteroffensive.
Right. Peter, interestingly, whenever I speak to journalists and political analysts from Russia, they say that this spring is going to be a defining moment as far as this war is concerned. And there may be some very decisive milestones being reached on both sides. How do you assess that?
Well, the milestone, obviously, the greatest milestone is Ukraine has shown that the world's second largest army, as the Russian army was purported to be, was shown to be a paper tiger, which is not to belittle Ukraine armed forces successes and the help we've received from the Western allies, but I think it's served the world a very important lesson that when you're in power for almost a quarter of a century, people start to lie to you. People start to create an alternate reality, informational, military, etc. And when you go outside the borders of your country,
Right.
then this reality is exposed for what it is, a lie. And I think Ukraine has served a very important function to show that this is not the way to go. You have to have free elections. You have to have freedom of information. That's the only way you can develop as a society.
And just before I let you go, Peter, do Putin's latest visits to Luhansk and Kherson bear testimony to the sagging morale of his army?
Absolutely, and it's also kind of we refer to it as cosplaying, of Vladimir Zelensky. Zelensky, who is an actor, a comedian, and whom Vladimir Putin has derided and belittled all this time. All of a sudden, he's playing catch up to Zelensky. He's having to venture out. I'm not sure if these are real, visits or they're fake, and they may have been filmed somewhere in a studio outside of Moscow. But it shows you that the morale is not where it needs to be. Putin is trying to bring it up to a certain level. I do not think he will succeed.
It's interesting that you've even questioned the authenticity of those visits, but I think I'll leave it at that. Many thanks to you, Peter, for giving me your precious time yet again.